Barbe Bleu, released as Bluebeard in English, is a French psychological horror trick film written, directed, and edited by Georges Méliès. Released in 1901, it stars Georges Méliès, as well as Jean Delcy and Bleuette Bernon, and was based on the fairy tale Bluebeard by Charles Perrault. At 11 minutes, it's silent, and I would classify it as appropriate for younger teens and up due to its brief violence and dark subject matter. Bluebeard is easily one of the most famous folktales in the French literary canon. Written by Charles Perrault, it was published in 1697 in the French fairy tale collection Stories or Tales from Past Times with Morals, and it went on to have a massive impact on fiction the world over, inspiring a myriad of adaptations, reimaginings, and spin-offs in basically any medium you can imagine, from ballet to video games. Its impact on storytelling for the past several centuries really cannot be downplayed. It's fitting then, I think, that this classic French tale would be adapted by one of the most important people in French cinematic history. Wikipedia states that Méliès' film is the second screen adaptation of Bluebeard, with the first being released in 1897 by the Lumiere brothers. The problem is I can only find one source for this claim, and it's a single citationless sentence in the 1979 nonfiction book Artificially Arranged Scenes, The Films of Georges Méliès by John Fraser. While the book overall is certainly an interesting text in many ways, I think this is an error. I've looked into all of the directing and producing credits for the Lumiere brothers and scoured film archives all over the place, and there's just no evidence that they made a Bluebeard film. Because of this, I feel pretty confident in saying that, based on the information we actually do have, Méliès was likely the first filmmaker to ever adapt Bluebeard to the silver screen. Production took place at Méliès' home studio outside of Paris, with most if not all of the costumes and sets being designed and made by him. Interestingly, the film's production design is not really consistent with any one geographic region or time period, blending together Renaissance, medieval, Moorish, and belly-poke architecture, costumes, and props, which just further adds to the fantastical and timeless nature of the story. The leading role of Bluebeard's eighth wife, who is credited as Fatima in this movie, was given to Jean Delcy, Méliès' mistress and later second wife, who was his muse throughout his career and appeared in a huge number of his films. Bleuette Bernon, a French actress who had a starring role in several of Méliès' works, including Joan of Arc and Cinderella, was cast as the fairy, the film's symbolic embodiment of Fatima's better judgment. Méliès himself played 3 roles in the film, that of Bluebeard, a cook, and a devilish imp who symbolizes Fatima's temptation and dangerous curiosity. Filming itself did not go on without a hitch. Méliès performed his own stunts, and during a sword-fighting scene, he stumbled and landed on his sword's guard, breaking his femur. A workaholic, he was unwilling to pause production, and continued filming on his broken leg for the rest of the day, only seeking medical attention after filming had wrapped. Though fairly faithful to its source material, it is worth noting that Bluebeard features a few added elements intrinsic to Méliès' style, including the physical representation of Fatima's temptation and better judgment, as well as a more magical ending. The film tells the tale of Bluebeard, a wealthy aristocrat who has been widowed an alarming 7 times over. In search of a new bride, he has gathered a crowd of local young women and their fathers in the hopes of wooing one, only to find them all repulsed by his strange appearance and poor reputation. It is only when he offers a large sum of treasure that one of the girl's fathers steps forward, offering the hand of his resistant daughter, Fatima. After an extravagant wedding feast, Bluebeard departs on business, and Fatima is left alone in his castle, given a key to a locked room that she is expressly forbidden from entering. Ultimately, as one can guess, her curiosity gets the best of her, and she unlocks the door, making a grisly discovery. Hung up in the room are the corpses of Bluebeard's 7 prior wives, most, if not all, executed for disobeying him. Horrified, Fatima flees and is haunted by the possibility that her husband will discover her defiance and subject her to a similar fate. I love this film. It is easily one of my favorites from Méliès, probably only ranking behind A Trip to the Moon and Cinderella. It's just such a well executed narrative despite its short runtime. Its world made to feel fantastical yet tangible due to its elaborate sets and costumes and its crowds of extras. It feels more cinematic than almost any film that had been released up to this point in history. And it even exhibits a precursor to close ups, with Méliès making props he once focused upon unusually large. The story, despite Méliès's modifications, is very faithful to its source material and captures what it is about the grisly folktale that has continued to enthrall people for centuries. It's shockingly violent at parts. Even though some bits are a little mitigated by the silliness of an obvious dummy, the intention behind what's being shown and the violence with which Méliès commits is pretty upsetting. Despite some instances of lightheartedness in the film, it treats its depictions of domestic abuse and spousal murder with the gravity that the topics deserve. Its only drawback from a narrative standpoint is that if you're not familiar with the original telling, you may be a bit confused by some parts, like Fatima trying to wash the key or Bluebeard allowing her to pray before punishing her. The performances are similarly great. They're energetic and easy to interpret despite a lack of intertitles. Méliès gives it his all, and he vacillates well between something to laugh at and someone to fear. Additionally, he is so fun as the embodiment of Fatima's temptation. Jahan's also great. Her distress over her marriage and her fear following her mistake are pretty palpable, and the extras are all really lively. Everyone there just commits 100%. There's even a sword fight and a pretty fun death scene. And even though I already mentioned it, I really want to reiterate how great the costumes and painted sets are. They're just very detailed and diverse and lovingly rendered. The props and special effects, which include substitution splicing, stage machinery, and smoke effects, are also really worth mentioning. It's just all so well put together, a clear passion project for Méliès, who obviously loved the source material. And it serves as a reminder for why he's considered so crucial to early film. I am going to give Bluebeard a 4.5 out of 5, and I recommend it to anyone with an interest in classic folktales, psychological horror, or just early cinema in general. The Haunted Curiosity Shop is a British supernatural horror comedy trick film, written, edited, and directed by the English magician and early contributor to British cinema, Walter R. Booth. Released in 1901, its cast was uncredited, as was typical for the time, and at 1 minute and 55 seconds, it's silent. I would classify it as appropriate for all audiences, though it does feature blackface and brownface. We have no real information regarding the production of this film. We know it was the creation of Walter R. Booth, a respected magician who had worked at the Egyptian Hall, the very place that first inspired Georges Méliès to pursue a career in illusions. Booth later became a pioneer in early British cinema, probably most famous for being the first to adapt Dickens' A Christmas Carol to the screen, with his trick film Scrooge or Marley's Ghost. He co-produced The Haunted Curiosity Shop with the English inventor and film producer, Robert W. Paul, a man who had co-invented a portable camera with Burt Akers, designed and built Britain's first film studio, and was a pioneer in film projection across Europe. In another connection to Méliès, Paul's camera was actually what Georges used to shoot his first films. Beyond that, we don't know anything. Clearly, this film was more about spectacle than true narrative, a transitioning of Booth's illusions from the stage to the screen. The plot here is very minimal. The elderly curator of a curiosity shop, a store that sells antique and often strange items, is harassed by a variety of supernatural forces ranging from ghosts to elves. This film is fine for what it is, I guess. Its story makes virtually no sense, with things just randomly happening for the sake of necessitating special effects. For example, a knight is taken apart piece by piece and put in a big pot, which causes elves or gnomes to emerge. I don't know, either way things just happen, then it ends with no resolution. The performances are nothing worth noting either. The Curiosity Shop owner is weirdly blasé, lacking the energy and silliness that you need for this kind of comedic short to land. Everyone else is pretty low energy too. The standout for this film would be the effects, which are admittedly well executed and quite fun. The female ghost who has to summon her lower body is a personal favorite of mine, while the completely random and hideous blackface is not. My ultimate conclusion for this is just that Georges Méliès was running circles around everyone else at this time. Overall, I'm going to give The Haunted Curiosity Shop a 1.5 out of 5. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen, but a few clever effects don't make up for all the rest. I'd recommend it to people who are interested in early British film history, and that's kind of it. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I really appreciate it, and I am so grateful to everyone that's commented and subscribed. My next video is going to be a twofer covering the French occult trick film The Treasures of Satan and the French horror comedy occult trick film The Infernal Cakewalk. You can find me on Blue Sky at Under the Fleapit, and if you like what I do and want to support me, my coffee donation page is linked in the description. Feel free to like and subscribe if you want, it would be very appreciated. And until next time, this has been Under the Fleapit. Stay spooky!